Welcome back to Ruff Cuts. Today we watched a movie about a satanic dog, and we really have to go over every scene about how adorable this dog was. So let's go ahead and start. So this dog was adorable. The dog was sitting there, and it was rolling around, and then it grabbed some borax in her face, and then it was just rolling around, and then when it grabs the leash, it's just petting them, and really this dog is just adorable.
Oh, it's so adorable.
Welcome to Ruff Cuts, everybody. This is Boyks and Ilyon back with episode 5. Today we watched Satan's Dog / Play Dead, which is a fantastic film. And
hey, listen, this is the most film out of all of the films that we've watched. This is the most film.
It's definitely a film, which is more than most of our movies we watch. So yeah, I'll accept it.
Well, this one's also probably recorded on film. Some of the other ones were done digitally, I'm sure.
Oh, that's true. This is
so it's the most film, by sure.
This is a camera pointed at a projector. It's great and fuzzy.
At
least there's no static.
Yeah. This is a double film because it was recorded on film originally, and then it was recorded on film again because there's no original of it.
Our movie opens up with our main character, the Rottweiler, licking a woman's face who's trying to sleep outside in a very terrifying manner.
Yes. Yeah, very aggressive licking.
And we have no idea the context, but I'm sure we'll find out. And that transitions to the most upbeat part of the film, which is the funeral.
That sounds about right. To be fair, what the movie is trying to portray there is a mauling. The reason why it's failing, and it's a dog just licking somebody and trying to wake them up, is because this dog is the most well-behaved dog that I've pretty much ever seen put to film. But not only that, it's also the dang cutest. It's so fucking cute. This dog is incredible.
This dog does not need to be in a horror movie. This dog should be in like every other movie we ever watched. But it's here for some reason.
Yeah, no, this dog is... This dog should have been replaced with Chevy Chase.
Oh my god, can you imagine Chevy Chase just mauling some poor woman outside? Actually, no, I should imagine that. Never mind.
Don't.
That probably happened.
Ooh, let's... Hey, Chevy Chase, let's brief aside. Don't sue us. Don't sue me, please. I've been in a legal problem already this year over something. I don't need another one.
So at the funeral, Cruella de Vil is introduced as Grandma, talking to her, we find out later, niece, which also has her fiance next to her, I believe.
Yeah, it's kind of... We assume that it's the fiance. It's like some boyfriend or something. And the only reason why we assume it's fiance is because they seem really, really, really close. And the grandma, Satanic DeVille here, leans over and goes like, "You're not part of the family yet." So we're like, fiance?
It has to be?
Like, that's the only thing that makes sense.
So she gets mad at them, walks over to the casket of her sister, which we find out later, and drops a satanic symbol necklace into the casket, and then the scene ends for some reason.
Yeah, once they leave, she drops it in kind of covertly, and then the scene's over. They kind of argue with each other about, like, you were never here, I don't know. So there's just family drama. I like to point out that you might notice that we're talking about an introduction and setup and characters.
There's characters.
Oh my god, there's introduction and setup and characters. No other movie that we've watched has done any of these things.
And not a single sign of two bumbling burglars.
No, unfortunately. That is a sad part, though. That part's unfortunate. But generally, we get dropped in media res, right? Like, in the middle of the action. Things are already going. There's no setup or anything, and then the movie, like, screeches to a halt because it's realized that it's blown all of its load and should have probably had an Act 1. This movie does that. It has all of it. It's kind of nice. This movie is super refreshing for this podcast. Like, if you've listened through the whole way, this is a film that Boyks will probably disagree with me, but, like, I wouldn't mind if you should maybe watch this. This movie's not that bad. I didn't think it was terrible.
there are parts of this movie I can enjoy from a filmmaking perspective. I would not say this is a good movie. Let's go that far real quick. This is not a good movie. You could watch it and be entertained, though.
I kind of liked it. I found it entertaining. I liked it. I actually liked this movie a little bit. Like, it's just so weird. So we have the funeral scene. She drops in the pendant. And then we get a cut to her with the dog.
So, okay, she's sitting there with the dog in a chair. The dog is absolutely adorable, panting, begging for pets. And she looks at the dog with dead serious eyes. She's like, we understand the power of Satan.
Yeah, like we understand.
And then it cuts to the dog. He's like, yep, I love Satan.
Yeah,
I love Satan.
Like,
when are we gonna go to Satan?
It's so weird because like this dog is. They do these close-ups of the dog, and it's just like panting with like that doggy smile that they have, and it's just super cute.
We understand the power, you and I.
What?
We know now.
Oh, it's
Don't
so
regret it.
And they always, whenever they do this with this dog, I love this part of the movie. Because this dog is so cute. They feel like every time it's on screen and they need to make it seem scarier, they ADR in a bunch of growls. Like, they just put all these growls over it that are clearly not
because they know the dog was cute.
Yeah, because the dog is not nearly threatening enough. Like, this dog, they get a Rottweiler because they're like, yeah, big scary Rottweiler. And it's like, hi, yes, I'm Rottweiler. Hi, good boy. And it's like, oh, my God, like, that dog is not a scary Rottweiler. It's so great.
She also introduces the dog's name, which is Greta. Not a very scary name to call your Satan dog Greta. Just gonna throw that out there. Probably should have chose a different name than Greta, but I appreciate the attempt, movie.
Yeah, the idea of having this dog being super scary and also being named Greta too, also just it so undermines itself.
That's like naming your main character John.
Yeah,
and he's the murderer.
Yeah,
or like if you had like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, there's death, famine, pestilence, and Dave.
I was gonna say Greg. Yeah, like,
fucking
just Dave.
Come on,
all right, Dave,
who the
get
fuck
your
is
sword
Dave?
out and come help us start the apocalypse. And it's like, it doesn't
please.
matter if Dave has like a death mask and stuff at that point. He's fucking
No, he's
Dave.
fucking Dave.
Yeah. So then she's in the house with the dog, and her nephew comes by. So another part of the family. And he acts terrified of this super cute dog, which is kind of hilarious. He's being all like, oh no, and just kind of has this little scene with him about like, oh, you should go and talk to your sister, and I'm going to try and be part of the family again. So all of that kind of thing. And she introduces the dog to Dave, to her nephew,
to the
Dave, to the fourth member of the apocalypse,
Dave.
And but she introduces the dog to him, and it's like, oh, this is Greta. And she's like, it's my Rottweiler. It's great. She's so bougie. She's like super bourgeois.
It's so
it's just
bourgeois.
Great. Yeah.
My Rottweiler.
It's really amazing. And then...
Well, you can tell she's a theater actor, right?
Yeah.
Like, she has to be. Because her whole performance is just all theater acting. Just classic stage.
Yes. She's also... I do want to say, though, like, that's not necessarily a huge, like, knock against her. She is perfectly cast. She's really good.
Yeah, she was even in a movie before this as a satanic worshipping dog,
dog lady again, yeah.
It's fine.
Which makes perfect sense. Honestly, it's weird that she'd be typecast as that, but I can see it. She's got like these great...
Yeah, it's like perfect. Like you saw her walking down the street. Oh yeah, she worships Satan and probably kills people with dogs.
She's got like these... She really has that face. She's got like these angular eyebrows and like really not features. Like she's just got like that really cold kind of... She's like a perfect Cruella de Vil. If they actually made her Cruella de Vil, she would have been perfect as it. She's great.
She's also apparently related to Gordon Ramsay because the last name of the characters are the Ramsays.
Yes.
So Hell's Kitchen, Hell's Doggo.
It all makes sense. It's all one universe. She so she also has this scene that I really liked. This is when it happens where so like she kind of sends out the nephew, and we get a little bit of her motivation, I guess.
Yeah.
The scene is really neat, although it's still very unclear to me, ultimately, how her motivation kind of ties together. But what she does is she goes to a cabinet and she pulls out something. And this is where I really wish that the movie was better quality. So it was picked up by Troma. And we talked about this earlier where you said, like, it's a film of a film. Like, they basically played the projector and then filmed it because they don't actually have the original. Like, they must have lost the original. That has to be it. Because when it was re-released, it's re-released as this, and it's really fuzzy, and you can tell that it's like a re-recording of a previous recording. Like, it's not an original.
And we did watch a YouTube video of this, but it's the exact same shitty quality on both the Amazon re-release and the Blu-ray.
Yeah, so, like, wherever it is, it's still this fuzzy, kind of awful re-recording. But she pulls out, like, this little, like, knick-knack of some kind. It almost looks like dead leaves. And she's, like, holding it to herself. And she's like, oh, Sam. And she's monologuing a little bit about how much she loved this man, Sam. And, like, and then pulls up his picture. And we get a neat scene of, like, it's kind of creepy where, like, the picture kind of comes alive and turns and looks at her. And she's in front of the mirror. And the mirror shatters and then reforms. And, sorry, this is actually just before the nephew comes in. Because it's when the nephew knocks on the door. The mirror
breaks
reforms.
her.
Yeah, the mirror reforms and, like, draws her out of the spell, basically.
It's super good symbolism.
It really is.
You get a look into her fractured mindset before the world shatters and she's brought back to reality. It's really clever filmmaking.
Yeah, like this is something that we don't talk about in any of these films because none of them have any clever filmmaking. There was like the one scene in Cop Dog where they had like the horror scene that was pretty good.
Yeah.
That one was great. But, like, this one is that good or better, at least. Like, this one's actually really good, like, kind of horror setup. It's really nice. And, yeah, so, like, she has this little thing about Sam, and it turns out that Sam is the father of her, like, niece and nephew. So it's her brother-in-law, and she had some kind of an affair with him, and either, like, he broke it off and scorned her, or, like, he died. There's kind of, like, this whole thing there. And that was the rift between her and the sister and the rest of the family. So we kind of get that motivation for the whole thing. The nephew comes in, sits down, talks. We introduce the Rottweiler. And then we have her driving over to the niece's house. And this is where we get to know that she is perfectly satanic because she parks her damn car. And there's a whole driveway, and she parks the car, like, almost in the street still. Like, she pulls into the driveway, but she does it where, like, there's no way that somebody could park in the fucking street behind her. No one else can park in this driveway, even though it's big enough for 2 goddamn cars, and no pedestrians can walk across the sidewalk. Park your car up the goddamn driveway, you bitch! It's just it bothered me so much.
The best part about this is I can tell that you've ridden bikes on public roads before because this shit does nothing but bother you.
Yeah, I ride my bike everywhere, and this shit fucking kills me. Yeah, like
I have had a truck that parked like this halfway over the sidewalk while I was riding a bike turning a corner. I ran into the side of the car, flipped over into the back of the truck.
Yup, yeah.
This is she is a satanic person, but she's not a monster. I mean, she left the dog in the car, but at least she lowered the windows.
Yeah, she lowers all the windows and makes sure the dog's okay.
You can't call her a monster. She's just a satanic.
gives the dog a pat. It's really great.
Yeah.
The dog is super, super cute, as it is in literally every scene. I cannot stress how cute this dog is. It breaks the scales that we have. It's incredible. And
as an off message, I guess, real quick, because of how cute this dog was, this movie actually increased the amount of adoptions of Rottweilers for a little bit after it got released in '86, which is kind of crazy.
Did it really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
That is a fact.
Oh my god.
This movie got more people to adopt Rottweilers, and it's supposed to be a horror, like, terror movie.
Yeah, I honestly 1000% can understand that. We'll get about how this movie is horror, though, in a little while, too, because I think that part of the reason why people don't like this is that, oh boy, did it get mismarketed. But, yeah, so she goes and it turns out that she's pulling up to the niece's house, and she comes in and starts talking to the niece, and she's trying to patch things up. They have this little scene where, like, they're having tea, and she's like, I'm so sorry, like, thank you for letting me come inside. I know that we didn't have a good start, but, like, now that she's gone, I want to be part of the family again, and we get like a hug between them, but then you can tell immediately that, well, actually, because when they hug, she does like the little mug at the camera, right? Like she looks at the camera and like stops crying and immediately like has this like haughty bourgeoisie look again, like of disgust at how much she like despises these people kind of thing. So you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is absolutely an act by this character as she hates all these people.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, and I brought you a nice dog. And she's like, come and meet Greta, and takes her outside and shows her the Rottweiler. And so she's going to give this satanic murdering dog to her niece as some kind of plot.
So she does give the dog to the niece. There is a small scene right before she comes up to the driveway and parks her car like a fucking asshole, where she gets the dog from obedience school. I think this is supposed to be a flashback to when she got the dog, because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
I think that it makes sense. I think that it makes sense otherwise, but I don't know. It's a little bit unclear as
it's
to
just
exactly
a really
what
weirdly
happens.
edited scene.
It is weirdly
maybe?
edited. I think that it still kind of makes sense to be like that she's picking the dog up, because it is weird though that she has the dog before that, and then the dog's at obedience school right after that. So it feels like it could be either or, and it's not entirely clear where it is. But we get this kind of flashback.
But yeah, she gets the dog. She takes it into her garage from a little side door, which is actually her Satan ritual garage.
Yes.
That she's definitely decorated with a bunch of candles.
Yeah, the set design on this is actually pretty good. They show a lot of different like shots of like vials and then like candles and things like that. They have some very out of place ones though. Like they just shoot a cage like of mice, and it's like, is that going to be like sacrificed or something? And then, later on they show an owl. So I think that maybe they just didn't have it in the scene yet, and so that's why the mice don't make sense.
But before she gives the dog, she does the satanic ritual to put Satan in the dog, because before. All she had was a cute doggo that was like, yeah, I love Satan, but didn't have the demonic presence that it needed for screen presence to be in this film. So she had to do that first. And then she gives the dog to the niece. That's important because that satanic ritual garage comes up later.
Oh, no, that's a major plot point for sure. Like there's a lot of things that happen. Well, I mean, there's a few things that happen in it for sure. So yeah, she inhabits Satan into this dog, gives it to her niece. The niece is like, oh.
Which is a good hobby when you're in your old age.
Yeah, I think that's like, all it is she's just like
she's really just bored, really.
You can do knitting circles, or you can do like pentagrams. What would you like?
Yeah. Some seniors pick up bingo. Some seniors pick up crosswords. Some of them pick up the Nintendo Wii for exercise. She just, picked up Satanism and put a demon in a dog.
Yeah, Satanism and dog trading. Perfect.
It's fine.
So the niece has the nephew over after that. Like there's not a great transition here either. I never understood why the nephew was over, but so there's like a couple of weird transitions at the beginning. There's some wonkiness at the beginning where like some of the time doesn't quite make sense, where it just kind of like things just happen. Like he just kind of shows up and you don't really know why. They're in the house together because I made the assumption that maybe they're in the house together because, like, the mom died, so they're staying in her house and, like, cleaning it out before they sell it.
Yeah.
But they never, like...
It's a reasonable assumption.
They never say that, though. Like, that's just kind of a thing that people do when someone dies. But that's us interpreting the movie, like, trying to put meaning into it. The movie doesn't actually tell you. It's just kind of there. So they're having dinner and then washing dishes and just chatting, having a nice little family night. And then he goes and leaves the house and goes to his car. And we get the perfect crime. So the dog
this scene is set up so well.
This is amazing. And this is where the marketing comes in a little bit. We'll get into it again a little bit more later, too. Holy shit, I love this.
What? Is the car gonna, like, run him over or something?
Or like...
Oh, yes!
The dog's gonna run over!
What?
Or...
Who is driving car? Dog is driving car? How could this be? Oh my god, this plan!
Wait, what?
It was the dog's plan to get him hit by another car.
This is the most convoluted million-piece plan, and I love it. Holy shit, the perfect murder! The dog is sitting beside his car when he goes to leave. He's got like this convertible. And he's like, oh, hi, dog, and like gives it a pat. And then he jumps in the car and tries to start it, and it doesn't start. So he goes like, oh, what the hell? Gets out, goes to the front, opens up the hood, and starts like grumbling and stuff under the hood. And the dog sneaks around the car and jumps in where he can't see because he's got the hood like blocking him into the driver's seat. And it's like, okay, so what's going on here? And eventually he like gets frustrated enough with the car that he goes to look at the driver's seat again, walks around the car to the driver's seat, and the dog like jumps out and jump scares him, like jumps at him and barks.
He just spooks him.
Yeah, it gives him a spook. But it's the spook of death because it makes him go backwards into traffic where perfect timing, he gets plastered by a car. And this is the better part of it, is that then the dog actually goes and puts the car into gear to cover up the crime because it's
and jumps out, so it looks like the car started to drive over him, and he jumped out of the way.
Yeah, so it makes
Can we talk about how big of a galaxy brain this dog is?
Yeah, like I said,
shit.
It is literally perfect crime. Like it's this whole thing where like at the time I called it, I was like, oh my god, did the dog cut the brakes on the car? But that wasn't convoluted enough. Like, the dog had...
No, it's even worse.
The dog sets this up. Later on, we find out that the battery was removed from the car. So the dog takes the battery out of the car and then, like, waits for a car to come by.
I just realized, that means the dog also opened the hood.
Yes!
And reclosed it. Holy shit, this dog is smart.
I know, it's fucking wild.
What a good dog.
And so, like, this whole thing is, like, the guy... So, like, put this in your brain. Even if you were a person, you have to know to, like, cut the leads and stuff on this car quietly and, like, make it look like you didn't fiddle with it. Then you also have to time it where you can time traffic on this street and jumping out at the guy so that he falls backwards into traffic without you even touching him. And then you've got to, like, know to put the car in gear so that it makes it look like the car, when he went under the hood, the car started to go forward because he hadn't parked it properly. And that's what scares him and makes him move into traffic. Like, it is fucking unbelievable the steps that have to go into this crime. It's incredible.
Clearly, I don't think the dog was even planning to get him killed. I think that was just an accident. I think this dog did nothing wrong.
This dog did nothing wrong this whole movie.
He was just... This dog was just holding an epic prank for her YouTube channel.
Oh, God.
And it just all went horribly wrong.
Yeah, the dog was just having fun, and it just accidentally did all of these things. That actually
you just got...
Oh, my God, we could honestly explain this whole movie through that. But, like, so we'll get into that. But yeah, the dog does this whole crime and covers it up. And that's where, like, the marketing for the movie is a little weird because it's, like, marketed as, like, dog from hell and, like, big snarling dog on the front. So you're expecting, like, big mauling, like, gore scenes and stuff. And that is not what happens here. This is a whodunit with a dog as the crime. Like, it's like the detective in the parlor, and he's like, there's someone in this room who was the murderer. Like, it's that kind of thing, and it's like, dun, 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 and it, like, cuts to all of the different characters in the film, and one of them just happens to be a dog. Like, it's great. Yeah. That's what this film is.
Like, here's the man with the monocle, here's the lady with the fine dress, us cute little poochie. Here's the guy with the eye patch and the scar. And oh yeah, of course, it's the guy with the eye patch. No, you idiot. It was the dog.
It was the cute poochie. So the dog commits this horrible
which could have been done way better than this movie did, by the way.
It could have, yeah. But it's still still serviceable. It's definitely so pretty decent.
They do have a detective, but before we get to the detective and the whole plot line of trying to figure out who's killing these people, we have to instead have a fairly graphic softcore porn scene for literally no reason.
Not fairly graphic. This is the other part of, like, the marketing of it.
It's like dongs?
Yeah.
Definitely a dong.
We had an argument about this. So basically the niece finds her fiance or something, like she comes out screaming, sees, like, the body or whatever, and then, like...
Because her brother just died.
Yeah, and then she comes back with her boyfriend, and her Beyonce.
Her Beyonce. Ooh.
So she takes...
You don't want to know why? Because he didn't put a ring on it.
God.
That's why.
Yes. So she takes Beyonce home, and she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I just watched my brother die," kind of thing. And then they just get to straight fucking. Then they bone down, and it is.
Yeah, it's just like, oh God, there's so much. So much skin of people I did not want to see.
It's a really like they film it for it's a good 3-4 minute scene that's really
it goes on way too long.
And really close-up scenes of close-up shots of panties and boxers very slowly being pulled down, and
if you're gonna get naked for a movie, don't make it play dead.
Yeah.
Really, this is not the film.
And so it's done really, it's absolutely softcore porn. They go as close to the line as they possibly can to actually showing dick and vag without getting there. They get real close. There is almost nothing. There's very, very little between that and full frontal nudity. But that they would probably not be able to get the rating that they want if they showed it. So they cut at the last possible seconds. And during this too, this is, to me, we kind of had an argument about this where you were saying that you thought it was pervy director, and I kind of feel like it was at the time you said that anyways. I think that's still a good guess. It's not a bad guess. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility, but my thought was that the director did this film because this film is really kind of slow tension building, and a lot of there's not a lot of gore and stuff that happens in this at all. It's very, very tame. And the marketing for it, though, is all, just, like I said, Satan dog, orgies. It's that kind of marketing where it's marketed as, this super maulings everywhere and, gory B-movie schlock from the 70s. And it ends up being this whodunit that's really kind of, just a suspenseful movie rather than any kind of a gory movie. And I feel like this was kind of hastily thrown in to be okay, listen, if we're going to market this movie, we've got to give them something. And so it's all right, obligatory sex scene. Here you go. You have to have it. And it kind of explains how, just slapped in it is, because it makes no sense that this would be where they have this sex scene. She just witnesses her brother die, and they go home and bone down. It's just so disjointed.
It's really weird.
It's really out of... tonally it's away from the rest of the film too. Unlike most of our films, this one doesn't really whiplash back and forth very much, and this scene is the exception. This is about the most whiplash we've ever had, because it just goes from this tragic scene of the crime to suddenly, all right, let's fuck, and it's real weird. But the whole time they also make a point of having Greta the dog kind of peeping in through a peephole kind of thing. There's
that dog is a perv.
Yeah, but it's so heckin' cute. I can't feel bad about it. It's got this big doggy smile.
You're about to get it on.
Yeah, it keeps cutting away from this erotic sex scene to the dog watching and doing the doggy pants smile. It's and my note for that is just Greta likes sex. So.
Apparently, yeah.
And then we get another scene of the cop being introduced. So we have detective guy. They kind of set him up like a Columbo or something, where he's just a messy detective dude. He's got his car broken down on the side of the road, and we don't know that he's a detective yet. He's just this schlubby guy in a wrinkled suit. And so he's Discount Columbo.
Discount Columbo / slightly better John McCain.
Yes. So he's sitting there on the side of the road. Yeah, you called him John McCain. You're not wrong. John McClane. Sorry.
I'm definitely not wrong.
Although John McCain also works because he looks like him.
No, it's 100% John McCain.
He looks like McCain.
Are you kidding
me? So he's sitting on the side of the road with his broken down car, and a cop pulls up, and he's like, all right, he's like, what's the problem? He's like, oh, I need your car. And he just leaves this rookie cop here, and he's like, oh, I'm taking your car, see you later. And he's like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, no, I'm detective, see ya. And he just takes the guy's car, and the guy's like, what the hell do I do now? And he's like even kicking the tires like angrily. He's like, no, I'm in the middle of an investigation.
We as an audience are also like, what the fuck? Why did he do
he's
that?
just a dick. Like, they just set up this guy as a total asshole. He just leaves this poor rookie cop there, like abandoned on the side of the road with his broken ass like old detective car, and just takes his cop car. And I don't really know why they have that scene other than to just set up that this guy's kind of a dick. But he goes and this is our detective. So he starts setting up like an investigation into how this crime happened. We have a little scene of like a couple of little scenes that don't really matter here, of like another satanic ritual by the granny who's deciding like she gets to see the crime, like it shows her what happened. Like she gets like this prescient vision of
she like presses a pigeon to death or something. Yeah. It's really weird.
Yeah, that one's a little gory. She actually sacrifices a pigeon, and it's like doing like this blood ritual, and then it like flashes into the crime of like the guy getting hit by the car and stuff, so she gets to see what happened. So I guess it's just setting up that like she knows that this is all happening, and it's just to keep establishing that she's ultimately behind it, I guess. And anyway, so we get the detective doing it, and I really like the detective doing the investigation stuff. Like they do some smart things. So it's him, and we get Texas cop as well, right? Like
Texas sheriff.
Yeah, get Texas sheriff and like the old guy, and they kind of have like the loose cannon storyline with it a little bit. Like
I'm a loose cannon.
Yeah, the old
Every
guy's
time I walk on the scene, I'm gonna be finger gunning.
Yeah, the Texas cop keeps on going like, man, they always said that you were wild. I didn't know what it'd be like working with you, though. And so, because he's got, like, these whack theories.
She probably suffered severe psychological stress, which may or may not have anything to do with it.
Right. Well, now, the way I got it figured, the girl probably feels a lot of unconscious hostility toward that brother of hers. I mean, after all, he's the one having a good time, and she's been shackled with her mama in the funny farm.
It's not enough to kill her own brother.
Maybe yes.
All right, I figured out the crime. She got real mad at her brother, and then she contacted Satan, put him into the dog.
Yeah, go on.
It's all making sense.
I know this didn't happen, but I imagine him every scene just one hand on his hip and a finger gun pointing at a weird
Oh god,
angle.
yeah, this guy's got such a Texas accent. He
has
would
to
go
have
old
that.
boy, old Texas boy. Like, yeah, you imagine him, like, I see him with a, like, 10-gallon hat, even though he never wears it. But, like, in my mind,
wears one, but my mind vividly has that.
Yeah, he has it. He's so Texas. It's incredible. Yeah, so they've got this whole thing set up where he starts setting up the crime, and he's like, it doesn't make sense. And the guy's like, well, no, it's just an accident. And he's like, no. Like, here, we'll go out and test it. And so the other guy's like trying to tell him like it's closed and shut. Yeah, but he does this really smart thing where they take the car that the guy had that was broken down, and they're like, well, could this have happened the way that we have like kind of set up? Like, would the car move forward and run him over? So what they do is they get the one cop to sit in front, like in front of the car, like he's working on it, and the other one to be in the car and put it into gear. And he's like, can you stop the car? Like, is the slope on this hill, like where it was parked, enough that you would not be able to stop this parked car? Because really, cars on a hill, like, you can push them. Like, it's not that they're
And it's not like a particularly large car.
No.
It's like a convertible.
Exactly. And like, you can, if you've ever done that in real life, I mean, you can push cars out of ditches and stuff like that. Like, they're on wheels, they're heavy, but it's not like you can't stop it. So they want to see if it's like something where it would get enough steam on this hill that he wouldn't be able to stop it because the slope is too much. And they kind of determine, like, no, this doesn't quite make sense. Like, he's like, no, I can stop it. Like, it's not a problem. And he's like, let it, like, roll a little bit. And he's like, no, like, it's not a problem. And so they're kind of like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. I don't know. It doesn't add up. So he goes to talk to the niece. Although I do want to say, we have a very brief scene here, which I loved, because we have Jeff is his name. It's Beyonce.
Yeah, the fiance.
The
Jeff.
fiance Jeff. I want to keep calling him Beyonce though. Can I keep calling him Beyonce?
Beyonce Jeff.
Beyonce Jeff goes and death flags really damn hard. We get like another gratuitous naked scene.
He is a fucking asshole to that
Yeah,
dog.
like he death flags really hard by just being a dick to the dog. Like, just like a little bit, like just for no reason. He goes to like put down its food and he's kind of like teasing it and stuff. She's like, be nice to the dog, Jeff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, all right. So he's next to die. Like, it's so obvious when it does it. It's like, oh yeah, they're setting up for the reason why he gets to die. And they have this little shower scene and the dog's like creeping in on them and it's got like dun 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 like
That
Jaws
that
music.
scene was literally just to add more nudity
Yeah,
to the
yeah, it
movie.
was just
There's
like this-
no point to that scene.
It's just a gratuitous like scene to add nudity, like I said. And we have a neighbor that knocks on the door, and then that like spooks the dog from killing them. So then they're fine. So we go back, and the detective's talking with the niece, and is like trying to interview her and see like maybe she killed him. Like that's kind of his theory.
Well, at this point, it makes perfect sense for the niece to be it, right? Like, from the cop's perspective, the scenario described does not make sense, and the niece is the one that has the most to gain. If her brother died, she gains more from the will of her mother, which was introduced at the beginning. So, I mean, logically,
Oh, no,
this
no,
all
yeah,
holds
absolutely.
together. It's
yeah,
great.
no, this movie has a plot and logic and like clever
Yeah.
scenes where
And-
like the cops actually do cop stuff that makes sense and works
Like-
out. Like it's
Like, we didn't have to call it cop shit.
No!
It was actual cop
it was
shit.
actual cop shit. I was like, listen, I trained to become a police officer at one point, and 90% of the people that I was with, they wouldn't have thought to do any of this shit. Like, that was smart. Like, it was
No.
really well done. Like, it was a good thing, like, where he set it all up and figured it out. So it was a nice little change of pace where this movie's kind of clever in a lot of ways. So they have the other thing that the shower set up, I actually have a note on this, is close your damn
yeah.
doors. Because it sets up that this dog can open like the sliding door because she leaves it outside to eat. And in the shower scene, the dog like kind of nudges the door open, but the door was already at least a little bit open. It's kind of great. Like they try to set it up like the dog opens a closed door, but it
Like,
always
oh my god, that dog's so smart. No, you just didn't close the door.
But yeah, it
lady.
always starts from where like the door
Come
is
on.
like it's a sliding glass door and it's open like an inch so the dog can like stick its nose in and then nudge it open. It's great. It's super cute when it does it too. So it's supposed to be like this
Yeah.
terrifying thing, but it's actually really cute. So he interviews the niece and then he kind of goes away suspicious, but like not really having any reason to entirely suspect her, right? So he goes and talks. He wants to go and talk to the aunt as well later on. So they kind of they kind of get that part. But at the same time, the neighbor lady, I think it's the same one that interrupted during the sex scene, the shower
must
scene.
be,
It kind of looks like the same woman, but it's not really set up. Like they have a very awkward cut from that. Like there's just this woman that knocks on their door when they're having the shower, and they're like, oh, and they like leave the shower, and the dog runs away. And then it just cuts. Like they don't actually show why she was at the door or anything, but she comes back.
I guess you could infer that she came back.
Yeah,
But either way, she comes to the house.
Mm-hmm.
She says hello to the niece. She's like, "Hey, my plumbing's broke. Can I get naked in your house and take a bath?"
Yeah, this is it's definitely a new scene. Like it's
Alright.
definitely jumped forward in time. So it's like I think it's the same lady between both scenes, but it's
It's
very
gotta be,
it's
yeah.
very very different from like when she knocked. Like it's definitely like a different time because there's stuff that happened in between, no question. And so so she goes and has a bath in this stranger's house, which is more than a little bit
And
weird.
then the niece goes to another room and falls asleep, like you do when you have your neighbor in your house. But the dog is like, "Oh, I know what to do." so we assume the dog's just being pervy again.
It nudges the
'cause
door
that's
open.
been established.
Yeah, it nudges the
and
door
nudges
open.
the door open,
Comes
comes in
inside.
from outside, and then creepily stares at her in the tub. Oh,
Good doggy.
what a good dog!
Okay, why is it killing the random neighbor though? I guess just Satan dog?
And who is she talking to? The dog?
Yeah.
Oh, she is. Look how cute the dog is! Also, why wouldn't you... What are you doing, lady?
Acting!
Oh my god,
That's great!
that is ridiculous! But that's not at all what's happening. The dog notices a plugged-in hair curler on the floor, picks it up in her mouth.
Yep.
And walks over to the tub, and the girl's like, "Oh, puppy, put that down. You're not supposed to be holding that." Aww. And then the dog drops it in the tub like a fucking maniac.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that I called this scene again. I called a few of them, and I feel really glad about that, like, at least partially, where I was like, it didn't cut the brakes, and then on this one, I'm like, oh man, I hope it drops a toaster in the bathtub. And it does!
Yeah.
It takes a hair curler and drops it in the tub like a plugged-in curler. And I love, my note for the death here is electric ... death ? Because
It's more like wiggling in the tub for like 30 seconds.
yeah,
with fake
there's a
electric
lot
effects.
of stuff in this movie that's really well acted and done, like, at least certainly in comparison to most of the other things that we've watched, like, and it's very much a product of its time. Like, it looks like a 70s kind of movie. It's actually an 80s movie, but it's really early 80s, and it still has that feel.
Yeah.
So, like,
Shot in 81.
yeah, so. It's kind of on that edge, right? Like, it's kind of that style of thing. An indie movie in the 80s, which means that it's kind of like a 70s movie. So it's like a little bit low budget, and it's got that film grain and things like that. Oh man, the death scene is so bad. Like, so they don't have any special effects for it at all to show that she's being electrocuted. So this poor actress just has to, like, wiggle to try and make it look like she's being electrocuted, and it is hilarious. It's so far off from what I would imagine a death in a bathtub would be for that. It's great.
Yeah.
So we get her wiggling around, and then the niece wakes up. I don't even know if she ever had a name for the niece. But she wakes up.
Audrey?
Maybe.
That sounds right.
Maybe. So she gets up and, like, sees the girl dead in the bathtub and screams, calls the cops again. The cops.
Calls the cops.
Yeah, now the cops are really suspicious because...
At this point, yeah, there's 2 deaths.
There's a lot of people dying in your house, lady.
At her residence, randomly. But they have to discuss it over ice cream that they got at the shop in Air Bud 5.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's incredibly important.
Oh my god. Like, when we talked about this, we were like, okay, so is this just the Air Bud universe? Because, like, all the dogs can just do human things? Like, this dog is doing all these advanced crimes?
Yeah.
And then the next scene is this cop getting ice cream exactly in the same style as in Air Bud 5. And it's like, oh god damn it does work! He's in the Baskin Robbins! It's all ties together. So yeah, he comes in, he is, like, interviewing them, and he interviews the aunt as well. And like, he has this whole conversation where he's, like, talking to the partner, and he's like, well, because the guy's like, well, it doesn't make sense that she'd do this, though. Like, she doesn't seem like the type. Like, so they're kind of discussing, like, well, it makes sense that she would have killed both of these people, except for the fact that she just doesn't seem like she has the attitude or anything, right? Like, she doesn't seem like a murderer. It doesn't feel right.
Because she's literally freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, exactly. And, like,
which is totally fair.
Yeah, and they're like, it just doesn't, she doesn't act like a murderer. And so they're having this discussion, and I have this note. I have to do this because this is a great scene. The schlubby detective, not the Texas cop is like, well, it doesn't make sense. And the other cop goes, well, but the only people that were in the house were her. And then he looks at the camera and he goes, and the dog.
But you'll have to admit, it looks a little bit fishy, though. This is the second one to die recently, and you were the last one to see them. Just you. And the dog.
And it cuts. And, like, he, like, has, like, this scene where he's like, the wheels are starting to turn, where he's suspecting the dog. It's great. And
it, like, hard cuts, too. It's not even, like, a short cut.
It's the hardest cut in the film, by far. Like, there's not really a lot of hard cuts.
Like, there's no time to think about it as a viewer.
No.
It's just, all right, well, that's done. Next scene.
Instantly goes away from it. It's so good. So it cuts from that, and he's starting to suspect the dog. And we have a scene of the niece. It's so good, where she's got the dog collar. So the aunt picks up the dog and goes like, oh, I've got to take it to obedience school. And she's like, I need to get it back to obedience school. And she grabs the dog from the niece. And it's to, like, renew the Satanism in it and stuff, too, which is weird.
Yeah,
like,
well,
so she kind of takes it.
Okay, Satanism in a dog is like batteries in a Game Boy. It lasts maybe 8 hours,
you gotta constantly be sacrificing new things to this dog.
Can you imagine how many demons she went through in one playthrough of
murdering her family? A family murder? Oh, God.
Oh God! Can you imagine if she had a Game Gear dog instead? Oof.
So, but there's like this moment where the niece is looking down and she's like, she gets like this voiceover kind of thing and stuff, and it's like, oh, just remember to keep the dog collar on it. It's just got sentimental value for me, kind of thing. As the dog's gone out at obedience school, and she's holding the dog collar in her hand, and she looks at it, and it's a fucking pentagram. So there's like this whole thing where she's like, "Oh, just leave the dog collar on for me, dear. It's this thing that's sentimental value, and it's this goddamn pentagram." And the niece is just kind of like, "Huh, that's weird."
Oh, that's weird. All right, I guess I'll leave it on. Oh.
And that nothing comes of that. It just shows it there. It's so good. It's incredible.
Can we point out how absolutely stupid this family is?
Yeah, they're real. Well,
holy
I guess
crap.
the aunt isn't, but yeah, everybody else is incredibly dumb. So she has this whole thing where she takes the dog to obedience school, and then she gets renews the Satanism in it, and the dog is very visibly like somebody, like you said, somebody's holding like some chicken or something off screen.
Oh, it has to be a treat
because
or something. It's
she's
so
doing
cute.
this big satanic ritual to it, and the dog's sitting there like, yeah, and it's like this the most excited, happy look on this dog's face the whole time.
I have never seen something so excited for Satan. It's adorable.
It's so good.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just begging for more pets. It's super cute.
I think I literally wrote 7 different lines in my notes for this movie. That is, what a cute dog. It's so cute.
Oh, yeah. There's so many
like,
scenes
half
of
of my notes are just that.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, wow, this dog is, like, distractingly cute. Like, it's not supposed to be this cute. And this is yet another one of those ones where it's like, they're trying to, like, ADR growls over this dog that's just, like, panting happily, staring at this woman doing a satanic ritual. It's great.
I mean, at this point, if you want to make a slasher movie, you can't just have 2 deaths. That's really boring.
No.
So they have to continue the deaths. The niece and her fiance go out to play tennis because it's the 70s and they're white.
Yes.
And after they're done playing tennis, they start walking back through the park, and the niece is like, "Aw, shoot, I forgot a thing at the tennis court. Huh. Oh, big golly, I can't believe I did that."
Yeah.
So she goes back to the tennis court to get the whatever she left, and Beyonce falls asleep at a random tree in the middle of this very populated park, and the dog is just like really cute and licking his hand and like nudging him. He's like, "Man, I want more pets. Why are you lying down, human? Give me pets."
Yeah, the dog is obviously begging for more pets, and they're trying to set it up as if the dog is like checking to see if he's awake, but it really comes across as like this dog is just desperately trying to get this person to give him some love. It's great. Or to give her some love. Sorry, the dog, Greta.
Yeah, Greta. So the dog is being held by a metal chain, which is its leash. And it uses that metal chain to wrap around the tree that Beyonce is sleeping at and wrap Beyonce's own hand to his neck so that he chokes himself out with his own hand and then loosens it. And oh my God. Okay, so she finds that her fiance has died.
Well, I need to again clearly set this up. So it doesn't just... The dog doesn't just wrap the chain around the tree while the guy is sleeping and choke him out with it. It does it in such a way, like, I just want to stress again, like you said, that his own hand chokes him to death. So his hand is caught in the chain and choking himself to death. This is an important plot point later. It's so good. So, yeah, and then it, like, once he's dead, it runs back and, like, goes and lays down at his feet to pretend like it's been sleeping there the whole time.
Oh, I've just been sleeping the whole time. I don't know why you got in a fire.
God,
like, come on, dog. Who's going to believe that? How dumb are you?
Well, everybody believes that. Yeah, everybody's going to believe that. It's so good.
How dumb are these people?
It's so dumb.
So they cut to the coroner's office.
Well, no. You do not get away from that. Because I have a note for this where she comes back, and there's one of the things is there's a million people in this park. when we zoom out, like, it's been close shots of him, and when you zoom out a bit, there's like a dozen people within 50 feet of him.
There's
it's
like everybody saw
nobody
this dog
watched
murder
this
guy,
dog
right?
murder him. But anyways, she runs back, and then she sees him, and she like screams, and the scream just kind of keeps going and going, and it's
for like a
really
minute.
bad. Like, she is not. I talked about how good the acting in general in this film is. Like, the aunt in particular is actually fantastic. The schlubby cop is really, really good too. But, like, this niece is awful. She's so bad. And she's just doing this, like you said, like, scream. And they hold on it and hold on it and hold on it. And eventually you said, you can cut now. And then still went on for like another 15 seconds. It was god awful. Like, the scream is just endless. It's amazing. So, like you said, it cuts to the coroner's office. And he's going like, so, like, the guy was choked, huh? And it's like, yep. And it's like, okay, well, like, and at this point, we're like, oh, like, with the leash, it'll show, like, ligature marks, right? Like, where it, like, got, like, the chain in him.
Yeah.
It wasn't totally clear. Like, it shows that his hand wrapped in the chain. But, like, what kind of mind would you have to think that that would mean that he choked himself? So it's like, it's just
well, it's not just that he said he choked himself. He's like,
No.
well, I mean, he had to.
Nobody thinks that
he had
choked
to have
himself.
been choked by someone
Yes.
else, because look at his his knuckles. They're all bloodied up. He must have fought
Yeah,
back, right?
but it's like, because the
Come on,
chain
I'm
was ripping his hand apart as he was choking himself with his own hand. And the coroner does
idiots.
this misogynist thing,
Like,
too.
they don't even check the hand to see if it
I
matches.
know,
they don't do anything.
Like, they do no work on this. It's as
What a
smart as the
fucking
cop. This
asshole.
coroner's an idiot. As smart as the cop is, the coroner's a dumbass. So the coroner does this
Yes.
really misogynist thing too, because the cop is like,
Oh, yeah,
the
that
cop
too.
goes
Fuck that
like,
guy.
well, could the girl have choked him out? Like, because everybody around this woman is dying. 3 people have died in like 3 days around this same woman.
And not even just 3 people. 3 people very closely related to her.
Yeah, exactly. Like her neighbor, her Beyonce, her brother. Like, what is going on? Her mother died. Like, so, like, what is happening with this woman? And he's like, could she have choked him out? He's like, no, it's with one hand. Like, it has to be a really strong man. No woman could do this kind of thing. And you're like, oh, God. Not even to bother checking, right? And so it's, this whole thing. And it's like, well, but he must have fought back, though, because his knuckles are all worn out on the one hand.
What a fucking idiot.
Like, you wouldn't have noticed that there's, like, a chain mark in the goddamn hand because it's been pushed so hard into his neck. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
So they do this whole thing, and the cop's like, it just doesn't make any sense, doesn't add up, kind of thing. And we cut to Texas cop, and this is the least believable part of the scene, part of the movie, because he's doing a warrantless search around the garage of the aunt. So he's there to interview her again, because they talked to her briefly in another scene where they were like, would the daughter be capable of, would the niece be capable of killing these people? And she's like, oh, no, she's sweet, kind of thing. And so he's going around to talk to her again, ostensibly, but he decides to just do a warrantless search and look around the garage, and he's like picking up like animal feathers and stuff, and he's kind of like, it's like she's sacrificing something in there, and he's trying to like maybe peer in a window or something. And so he doesn't and no like warrant or anything for this, which is super unbelievable because, I mean, this aunt is white. So there's no way that they'd be doing a warrantless search on this rich white lady. And
it just doesn't add up.
Just don't add up. So there are some
Yeah.
things in this movie where the plot just doesn't quite make sense. But she catches him and stops him before he gets inside of the shed and kind of admonishes him like, you can't do this to me.
Yeah.
What are you doing looking around here? And they have this little argument, and he kind of gets, shunned off from her. But you can tell that he's kind of like, I wonder what's going on in there. And he's kind of more suspicious of the aunt a little bit now. So he's kind of looking at her.
Which is bad for them, because now they have to die, right?
Yeah.
Like, that just put them on her hit
I
list.
think that's the reason why we have that scene, because otherwise nothing
That has to be
nothing
why.
really comes of it. But I think that it's meant to be like, because he's kind of looking really thoughtful at the end of it. So I mean, I felt like it read the intention of it as like, oh, the cops are maybe closing in on her and now she's getting scared. So she decides that she's got to get rid of the cops. And so I guess that means that she just she telepathically, psychically links with the dog this whole time and lets the dog know who to off next. Because they've talked to the coroner. Now it's time to go back and talk to the niece again because what the hell? Everyone in her life is dying. Like, this is real.
Yeah, why not?
Up.
Let's do it.
And so he goes in and the schlubby cop goes in and talks with her by himself while Texas cop waits in the car. Like, he just kind of says to the Texas cop, like, it's okay, just wait in the car. Like, I'll handle this one. Which...
At least they didn't park halfway on the sidewalk.
like an asshole. But, that's one of the things that doesn't quite add up for cop shit, because I don't think you'd really do that. But anyways, he goes in by himself, and he's talking to this girl, and he ends up going like, oh, I get really bad heartburn, oh, it really hurts. Can you get me some Alka-Seltzer? And
this was never set up, by the way.
No, it's really kind of comes out of left field. Although, to me... He looks like a guy that drinks Alka-Seltzer.
Probably.
He just
but,
is like that.
That's
kind
more
of look.
because of it. That's his hobby, right? Like she picks up Satanism. He drinks Alka-Seltzer. That's not because he has heartburn.
He just, I don't know. There's something about him that I was like, nah, this is it. Like this guy needed Alka-Seltzer this whole movie.
Yeah, this guy probably needed that. Yeah,
I'm
sure.
like, yeah, of course he did. Like, for whatever reason, I never clued in that it hadn't been set up really well because, there's something about himself as a character, the way he looks and acts and everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, this guy needs Alka-Seltzer. This is an Alka-Seltzer man.
So the niece goes into the kitchen.
Yep.
Opens up
the
lower part of the sink for no reason, like the cabinet underneath the sink.
Yeah.
Pours a glass of water, drops 2 tablets in, and then walks away.
I need to stop you for a second because she opens the bottom cupboard, like looking for something, but leaves it open. And the movie very clearly zooms in on this empty cupboard except for one bottle that says lie. There's one bottle in it and it's just this bottle of lie. So you're like, oh yeah, okay, I see what they're doing here. It's so great that they actually set it up that much.
Yeah, so she walks away. The demon dog, gets up, takes the bottle of lye, which is like a drain cleaner.
And this is the cutest thing. It's so good. And
grabs it in her mouth, walks over to the glass, and then pours it. This is a real dog pouring this chemical into the bottle, or the glass, I guess, and then puts it back, closes the door, I think, and then just acts like nothing happened.
Yeah, this dog is the most well-trained dog I've ever seen. That's why this movie doesn't work, because this dog is so well-trained and so cute and obedient that you just cannot imagine it killing people. It's so wild. And this goes into the Air Bud theory, though, and where you were talking about how this dog did nothing wrong. It just saw her put Alka-Seltzer in there, and it saw another bottle, and it was like, oh, I can do that too. I'm going to help. And it comes over and helps.
This was all just a huge accident.
Yeah, just in the bath. In the bath, it was like, hey, your hair looks a little bit messy. Maybe you need a curler, and then it accidentally drops it.
Just trying to help. I don't know how I explain away the choking with the hand thing.
It was just giving Boyks. It was just giving him a hand.
Oh, I see. All right. So,
and there goes the listenership for our podcast plummeted to half this day.
So the dumb cop, or I guess the maverick cop, I don't know, the old guy, he drinks the glass of poison. Essentially,
lie.
Starts immediately choking and dies on the spot, and then it hard cuts to the dog standing on top of a cabinet or something. That dog is so cute. The way it does murder is adorable.
I love they keep putting growls over top of it because this dog has never growled. This dog is the sweetest.
Better wait a while. It's still bubbling a lot.
Well, I like it best.
Oh no. You wouldn't notice the taste difference?
You would notice that instantly.
Yeah, you would.
Smell too.
Well, you were wrong. Boomers die again.
Done. I ain't gonna lie, death would be a lot worse than that.
Aren't they just gonna blame the niece? They have to take the niece
Yeah.
in now, right? She fucking poisoned this guy.
What the fuck?
The dog!
Yes!
It's just like championing over the death, like, yes!
It was me!
It was me, Dio!
God damn it!
What happened? What's wrong?
Just like super excited, being like, yeah, I killed that guy. Yeah.
Holding the bottle
I
of lie.
totally
It's
did
holding
that.
the lie again for no reason.
Holding the bottle
Like,
in her mouth, like,
it
ah, yeah,
it hidden
fuck
the
that
lie.
guy.
But then it like pulls it back out just to like sit there and mock this woman. She's like
just to
screaming in
mock it.
agony,
It's so
watching this
cute.
guy die on her floor, and the dog's like, "Ah, yeah, I'm a good girl. Look at this, I got the lie." It's so good. It just keeps cutting back and forth between them, and Texas cop hears
Oh,
her
God.
screaming, so he runs inside and he's yelling at her to call 911. But she is a broken person at this point. Which I mean, to
like-
be fair. Yeah, like she's
Like five or six people in her life have died around her just
like
suddenly,
in days.
and she has no idea why.
Yeah, like just in like a couple of days, like every person that she's ever known and loved has died. It's
kind of tragic.
it's real, like you can tell, like it would absolutely, of course, it would destroy somebody. And so she's screaming, and he's telling her to call 911, but she doesn't do anything. She's just screaming. So we get this. This part's not very clear, but I think that it's implied because he calls 911, gets an ambulance for the cop, and the cop is obviously like, well, that cop's dead. So, but it's done in a way where she gets taken away, but in an ambulance, like the niece does. And I think
it's with
and
the
it's
cop,
with the cop. Yeah,
for some reason,
which is weird, and that's why it's so set up. Why I find it so weird. But I think that what they were trying to imply, and what I read out of it, and I don't think it was super poorly set up, but it just is. It could have been a little clearer. I think that what they're trying to say is that like they're taking her to an insane asylum, basically. Like they're taking her to like a mental hospital because like he's trying to shake her out of it. Like the Texas cop the whole time is like snap out of it, and she's just like screaming at basically.
She
the
must
whole
have just
time.
definitely broke.
Yeah, and then at the
point,
end when like they're leading her into the ambulance, like she's just catatonic, and so I'm pretty sure like that was the idea of that scene is that like. The aunt doesn't need to kill this woman because she's not a person anymore. Like they broke her mentally instead, right? Is the idea. And that's why you have like the cut between her and the dog too, is that it's like, I don't even know if the dog was actually there because we had seen the dog put the lie away. I felt like that was almost like in her mind, right? Like that she's like imagining the dog putting it. Like,
could be, yeah.
It kind of has that feel to it where it's like, it's just like all of these things just crashing in on this woman. So anyways, she gets taken away in an ambulance and she's never seen in the movie again. So she's gone and done, right? Like the implication is she's either in jail or in an insane asylum or something. And so now,
Correct.
What do you have to do if you're the aunt? You gotta cover up the rest of your crime. So she takes the dog back.
Exactly.
As everybody's like there doing the whole, oh my god, this cop's dead. Aunt shows up, grabs the dog, and runs away. Which makes no sense. Everyone knows she has this dog. She talked to the cops before and told them that she gave them this dog. There was a minor scene that we didn't really talk about where they talked to the obedience school people. Like the cops went to the obedience school and just talked to the obedience school. And
They
like,
definitely know about this dog.
yeah, they know about this dog
makes no
and that
sense.
she is the one that had it. But she's like, I've got to cover up the evidence, and grabs this dog, takes it away, and she goes out into the middle of this dark, like she goes in at night into this field, finds a cliff, and then she's like, oh, look, I've got your favorite toy, and pulls out this Frisbee and starts like playing catch with the dog. And then she throws the Frisbee off the cliff and the dog follows it. Which is the most disturbing scene because it looks more realistic than it should.
Yeah, it looks like the dog just literally falls off a cliff, and I was not okay.
You were visibly
with that.
shaken by that. That one bothered
Yeah,
you.
I'm
I
like,
could tell.
oh.
Yeah.
Did they actually throw a dog off the cliff? I don't think they did, but it looks
They do,
bad.
yeah, they have it. It's a very realistic looking scene.
Ugh.
So they have this dog dummy go off a cliff and it falls down onto the rocks, and then they're like, okay, the dog's dead. And this is another scene that makes another leap of logic that makes no sense.
Yeah.
She takes all of like the dog toys and the dog kibble and like all of that stuff and just starts throwing it down the cliff after the dog to cover up her tracks. And it's like, I don't get it, because everyone knows she had this dog. So
like the only reason she did that was so that they could pan the camera back. There's no other reason.
guess, but like, so she throws all of this in because the reason why they pan the camera back is it goes back to her at the top of the cliff, where like it has the dog dead on the rocks below, and then it goes to her up on the cliff throwing the stuff in, and that's why like so you get the pan shot back up to her, and then it pans back down, and the dog's gone. Dun dun dun.
Where did it go? And then it mauls her.
Yeah, which is the beginning
and the
scene.
scary mauling scene.
That was the mauling
the
scene
beginning.
from the very beginning of the film that we had.
So the dog kills her and walks away, but she's not dead.
This is my favorite moment in the whole movie. It's so good. Yeah,
I'm still alive.
Yeah, she does like.
And
this
then the dog's like,
moan.
"Oh hell no! You didn't just do that."
Yeah,
it comes back for a second maul.
it's so good. Like there's this. For no reason, they have this scene where she gets mauled. The dog goes and like licks her face and is trying, like that's what we were talking about in the beginning, where it's like it looks like the dog is just trying to get more pets. Like the dog is just trying to wake a human up and play with it, or like get pets or something.
Yeah.
Like it seems pretty obvious, and it walks away, and they could have just let that be the scene, but instead, no. She's.
Yeah, we gotta do
and
it
like
again.
it goes back and it's like Mauling 2.0 Electric Boogaloo. It's so good. It's Mauling the sequel, and it just goes back.
Like the second time she got mauled by the same dog in the same scene, I was a little distraught. But by the fifth time, when the dog kept coming back, and she kept going, "Oh,
it was just comical.
I'm still
at that
not
point.
dead." It was just great.
Hilarious.
Just good filmmaking, really, when you think.
Oh
about
man,
it.
you made a perfect loop of this that I think that we need to put up on Twitter. That's really good. Like just of this, like where we keep going back to like this, and then the dog just keeps going back in over and over and over and over endlessly. It's such a dumb thing to have added in there, and like the only thing I could think is stretching time. But this movie's long enough, and it's like 10 seconds extra or 30 seconds more, so it just makes no sense. I don't know why they did that, but it's great. It plays for comedy really well, which I don't think is intended, and that's the movie. It just ends on that. So the dog mauls her, and then it goes to a street light and lays down so that it can be like properly epically shot as the credits roll, right? So you get a nice shot of this dog that has murdered everybody laying under the street light. And it might murder again.
And that's the end of the movie.
That's the movie. We've got Satan Dog.
There's a couple things I was interested in that I was looking up while we were discussing the movie here through our podcast.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where the hell I've seen that aunt before.
Yes.
She is Lily Munster in the Munsters.
What?
In the original Munster series.
She would be a
and
perfect
she's
Lily
also
Munster.
a character in the 10 Commandments from the 50s movie.
Wait, like from the Charlton Heston, like Cecil B.
Yes.
DeMille? Yeah, Yeah, and this is what I was saying. Like, she's a good actress. Like, I really felt like she was actually had some chops. Yeah, for sure.
And the niece is in a ton of TV shows. ER, Murder, She Wrote.
That's more.
There's some talent.
That's
in
more
this
surprising
film.
to me because that niece is screwed. She was good. Okay, she was good in basically every other scene.
She
that
was still
one
making
screen.
movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
like since 2015.
Huh.
So
that's pretty wild. I'm surprised.
Also, Texas Cop. I got a picture of him in a fucking tent. Like, all right.
Oh man, did you have to actually shop that, or was it just there?
No, that was just on his IMDb.
Oh my god, yes, of course it was. Oh, that's so good.
Of course. I'm like, this guy has to be in a Texas hat somewhere. Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, first picture of him. There we go. 10-gallon hat. Oh god, he is so Texas. All right, so
he's so Texas.
Boyks, would you like to rate this doggo?
Oh boy, rating Greta's tough because it's the most adorable dog I've ever seen on screen, and it really loves Satan, which is an endearing quality. And when you think about it, none of these situations were the dog's fault. I mean, these are all just
Horrible accidents.
happenstances.
Yeah. What kind of an idiot
So
would think that the dog committed the murders?
Yeah, I would rate this dog 666 out of 10.
Oh man, yeah, would murder again. Oh, this dog is fantastic.
Would watch murder again.
Watch murder again. It's really hard to state. Like, I feel bad that I kept on saying, like, 5 out of 7 and 11 out of 10 for dogs, because Greta breaks the scale. Like, this scale needs a whole new Greta level, because Greta is incredible. It really is worth watching this film, even just for the dog, just to see it once. This dog is super cute. It's a very nice dog.
Yep.
I want to give a shout out to all the wonderful people that talked about us on Twitter this week. We had Sirius Inc. and, of course, like our guest from last week, Mecha Denny, and all the people that have supported us. We've managed to crack over 200 downloads, so that's really nice. If you can, follow us on Twitter. We're at Ruff Cuts Cast on Twitter.
Yep.
And we really appreciate everybody that shares out all of the stuff that we tweet, or like when a new episode goes live. It means a big deal to us. Right now, as you might know, like, we just pay to host all of this, and it's just a labor of love, but it's the more that we get for it, it's nice. It feels good, because then it's worth it for our time, so we really do appreciate it a lot.
I agree. And, by the way, Ilyon, would you like to rate this film?
I kind of do want to rate this one. I don't want to do it's like I don't want to do the joke, because I like this movie.
End the film! End the podcast! We're done! You can't rate it! Go cut!